China is not having it with Donald Trump's bullying tariffs. They're hitting back hard, raising the alarm that this trade war could turn into a global recession and cause even more chaos in the financial markets. On Friday, Beijing retaliated by slapping on a whopping 34% extra tariff on all goods coming from the US, just like the US did. This is making global stock markets crash and burn. Analysts reckon that almost $5 trillion has been wiped off the value of global stock markets since Trump's speech on Wednesday night. In the UK, the FTSE 100 index of the biggest companies closed more than 7% lower than on Monday. That's the worst week's trading since late February 2020, when everyone was worried about the COVID-19 pandemic. This huge trade fight between the world's two biggest economies is making investors super nervous about the future of global growth. The boss of the US Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, warned that the trade war will lead to higher prices and slower growth. But Jerome Powell, the Fed's chair, refused to listen to Trump's calls to cut interest rates. The International Monetary Fund's IMF also said that the trade war is likely to hurt global economic growth. But the boss of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, said that the tariffs are a big risk to the global outlook, especially since the economy is already struggling. China's retaliation came after Trump put up 34% tariffs on Chinese goods, which were already taxed at 20%. That means the total tax is now 54%. And Trump also put up big tariffs on neighboring countries in Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand, where a lot of Chinese goods are processed before they reach the US. Trump took to Truth Social on Friday to express his thoughts. He said, "China messed up. They panicked the only thing they can't afford to do." Meanwhile, the UK Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, said ministers will keep talking to Washington, hoping to get rid of the 10% tax on UK exports. The UK is offering some concessions like cutting the $1 billion a year digital services tax for some big tech companies. "We're committed to doing everything we can to get the best deal for British businesses, working closely with them to keep our economy strong and our jobs safe," she said. Financial markets think the Bank of England will cut interest rates 3 more times this year because the economy is slowing down. Some people think this could make Reeves raise taxes in her upcoming budget. "I thought the main thing now is that if she follows her rules, she'll probably have to raise taxes a lot in the fall," said Paul Johnson, the director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies. On Wall Street, the tech-focused Nasdaq index went into bear market territory, which means it's lost over 20% of its value since the sell-off started. It dropped 5.8% on Friday alone. The S&P 500 fell 9.1%, which is its worst 5-day trading stretch since March 2020. Oil prices dropped a lot as experts changed their guesses about how the world economy will grow. Brent crude fell by 7% to about $65 per barrel. Georgieva urged for calmness, emphasizing the importance of avoiding actions that could further harm the world economy. They appealed to the US and its trading partners to work together constructively to resolve trade tensions and reduce uncertainty. However, China's response to the Trump tariffs was far from moderate. The country's State Council Tariff Commission criticized the US approach, saying it went against international trade rules, seriously undermined China's legitimate rights and interests, and showed unilateral bullying. Despite worries that his trade war would lead to higher prices for Americans, Trump also called on the independent Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. In a speech in Arlington, Virginia on Friday, Jerome Powell said that the economy is still too shaky to make any big moves about money. He knows people are worried and uncertain, but he said this is a gradual process that everyone's going through. However, he gave an honest look at the possible effects of Trump's policies. He said that uncertainty still exists, but he made it clear that the tariffs are much bigger than anyone thought. He also said that the economy will probably have higher inflation and slower growth. The president promised voters that his Liberation Day policies will bring jobs and investment back to the US. But investors are worried that the higher prices will hurt people's spending in the US and slow down economies around the world that depend on exports. The market has been really shaken up by Trump's unpredictability, making it hard to guess if he'll back down on some of the tariffs or stick to his guns. On Friday, Trump made a big statement saying, "My policies will never change." And then he said he had a productive call with the Vietnamese leader, To Lam. Apparently, Lam offered to lower Vietnam's tariffs. After all the chaos on Wall Street on Friday, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said it was all part of the administration's plan to change the US economy. He said the markets are crashing because they're based on companies that are hurting the US economy. But in the UK, some economists think the tariffs might not have a big effect. James Smith, an economist at ING, said the overall impact of tariffs on Britain's GDP is probably only about 0.2% or less. It's not enough to change the outlook for UK growth. And there are some good things happening for growth this year, especially because of government spending. The investment bank JP Morgan changed its mind and now thinks there's a 60% chance the global economy will go into recession by the end of the year, up from 40% before.